So, these xi's can even be discrete or some mixtures of whatever you want, as long as there is a finite as long as there is a finite variance, convergence in distribution is guaranteed. So, if xi's were let us say discrete or something, suppose xi's were discrete, then these un's will also take only countable set of values, correct. So, you cannot possibly have convergence of this un will not even have a density in that case, right, and because un will also be discrete if xi's are discrete, the CDF of un will have discontinuities, the CDF will have jumps, right, but in the limit these jumps become smaller and smaller and you will converge to the error function. Okay. So, the limiting CDF, although the CDF of fun of x may have a number of discontinuities, because un as xn's may be discrete, un's may be therefore discrete, but if you take the limiting CDF you get a nice error function. Okay. Is that clear? So, the error function looks like that, right, but the limiting functions may have these little jumps which gradually become finer and finer and converge to the error function, but the sequence un may still be discrete or mixtures or singular or whatever you what have you, right. Generally, even if you have densities, so even if you have a sequence of random variables with densities which converge in distribution, it is not necessarily the case that the sequence of densities converges. Okay, there are some counter examples for this. I believe there is one in the homework. Did you put that in the homework? Yeah, so so I think Grimmett has a counter example for this. So, you may have a situation where xn converges to x in distribution and xn's are all continuous random variables. So, they have densities, but still you may have a situation where the densities of xn's do not converge to the density of x. Okay, that is also possible. So, it is not true that even if you have these un's may have density, but still fail to converge to the bell curve, that it is not a consequence of central limit theorem. So, okay, so that is not what CLT says, it says convergence of CDFs. Okay. It is not a failure of Radon-Nikodym theorem, it is they both have densities, it is just that the sequence of densities do not converge to what you want. Sequence of CDF converges. See, generally speaking, if you have fn of x converging to f of x, does not mean that fn dash of x converges to f dash of x, correct. The sequence of derivatives need not converge, correct. You need additional, if you have uniform convergence you can assert the convergence of densities, right. So, you need additional assumptions, and if you want to assert the convergence of densities you need additional assumptions. Okay. So, such results, actually such a result does exist. For example, there is something called local central limit theorem. So, an example is, so this is just for your information, this is not something you have to really learn very seriously. Local central limit theorem, actually Grimmett has a version of this local CLT. So, Grimmett and Sturzik section 5.10. Let x1 x2 ... be an IID sequence of random variables with 0 mean and unit variance. Suppose Cx of t, the characteristic function of these xi's, satisfies so the let us say it is this characteristic function satisfies, so dt. Okay. So, the rth moment is integrable for some integer r bigger than or equal to 1. Then un has a density by mean PDF. Okay. Un has a density function, say fun for n greater than or equal to this r. And further, fun of x converges to e power minus x square over 2 over square root of 2 pi as n tends to infinity uniformly for all x in R. So, this is the proof is actually Grimmett gives a full proof of this. So, this is one example of a local central limit theorem. So, this is not this requires an additional assumption that, for example, so for r greater than or equal to 1, for some r greater than or equal to 1, integer valued r greater than or equal to 1, you have that the characteristic function rth moment is integrable, right. For r equal to 1, this is absolute integrability of Cx, right. If you just take r equal to 1 for the sake of simplicity, this is saying that Cx is absolutely integrable. Okay. So, actually if Cx is absolutely integrable, you know that there necessarily exists a density, right. We stated a theorem about it. In fact, you have a density which is uniformly continuous, right. So, when you have a density that is uniformly continuous, then you can prove that the convergence actually happens to the density of the Gaussian. Okay. And if generally r does not have to be 1, r can be 2 or 3, okay, it can be square integrable or cubed integrable. Okay. And for n greater than or equal to r, your un will have a density. Okay. That is an example of a local central limit theorem. So, you need more assumptions in order to get convergence of densities, even if you have continuous random variables. Okay. Are there any questions? So, the central limit theorem is the physical reason behind the common occurrence of the Gaussian random variable in so many engineering and statistics applications, right. So, if you were to measure the noise across a wire which does not carry any current, you will get it is distributed like a Gaussian, right. It is Gaussian distributed noise. The thermal noise across a resistor is a Gaussian noise, right. This is something that people often say. So, the underlying reason behind this is in fact the central limit theorem, right, because if you have this piece of wire, so this thermal noise is a statistical thermodynamic phenomenon, right. So, you have a number of these electrons and there is no electric field, right, you just have a wire, there is no electric field, so there is no current. So, these electrons are just jiggling around due to their thermal energy, right. Then there is no mean, there is just variance, right, they have this thermal disturbances. and you have so many of them, right, moving around because of their thermal variance, and each electron creates ever so small a voltage because of its of this vibration, these movements, right, and you have so many of these electrons. So, and the sum looks like a, so the net voltage looks like a Gaussian because of the central limit theorem. So, you have a 0 mean and some finite variance. Finite variance is because this is a thermodynamic system, right, it is a finite energy system, which is why in all these finite energy, finite variance systems you have this Gaussian everywhere, right, and the variance of this electrons jumping around is related to the temperature. Larger the temperature, more they will jump around, so more the thermal noise, okay, the more the variance of this noise, okay. So, the central limit theorem is at the heart of these things, okay. Any questions on the central limit theorem? Okay, so that completes central limit theorem. If you do not have any more questions, that is the end of central limit theorem. Actually, there is another theorem which is more advanced, which further qualifies this fluctuation Sn minus n mu over square root of n. Okay, I will just, because I have some 10-15 minutes left, I will just put the theorem down. Okay, it's certainly not in your syllabus. It's called the law of iterated logarithms. Law of iterated logarithm. So, it's a pretty long hard theorem to prove. Okay, it's a fairly advanced theorem, but it's a fairly remarkable result. Okay, so Gromit and Sturzaker, section 7.6. So, you have, let us say that, let us say xi's are IID 0 mean unit variance, okay, and let un is equal to, let un equal to Sn over square root of n, right. So, you are essentially summing the 0 mean random variables dividing by square root of n. So, central limit theorem says this fluctuation is, as n tends to infinity, this fluctuation is roughly like a Gaussian n01 random variable, right. Now, this law of iterated logarithm looks at the largest value taken by this un. Okay, how big are these? So, as n becomes large, you know that if you fix any particular n, very large n, this un is going to look like a Gaussian, right. But if you look at a very large n and look at, so suppose I am at a very large n equal to a million, let us say, and I am looking at the sequence that is coming after a million, after a very large n. If you look at that entire sequence, what is the largest value it takes? How big are these fluctuations at maximum? Understand what I mean? So, this fluctuation, so you have these fluctuations, right. So, let me say, pretend that I am plotting n and un, right. So, for each n you will have some fluctuations, right, and if you just fix an n, fix a particular n and run various omegas, you will get this Gaussian for that un distribution because of central limit theorem. But the law of iterated logarithm does not fix a particular n and look at its distribution, which is what CLT does. It looks at the largest value taken beyond n, right. Is there a very big fluctuation somewhere? and how big is that fluctuation, okay, is what it looks at. Okay. So, the remarkable result is that the largest fluctuation, in some sense the limb sup of this un is roughly like log n, okay, that is why it is called the law of iterated logarithm. You have log of n, right. So, the biggest value for large n, the biggest value that this fluctuation takes, although for a particular n it is Gaussian, if you look at the entire play of this entire realization of this fluctuations, the largest value it is going to take is like square root of log n. Okay. So, in particular the theorem is this. The theorem under these assumptions is that limb sup of this guy Sn over square root of n log n so this is equal to square root of 2 almost surely. Okay, this is the law of iterated logarithms. It's a pretty remarkable result. So, we are saying Sn over square root of n is Gaussian, but the limb sup, the largest variation looking beyond n, right. So, largest variation as limit n tend to infinity, if you scale it down by square root of log n is almost surely equal to square root of 2. Okay. So, which means that this ratio will exceed square root of 2 will, okay. So, if for any value of c which is less than square root of 2, this ratio will exceed c infinitely often, but if this value c is greater than square root of 2, such the excursion beyond c will be only finitely often. Okay. So, this is I mean this is just for your I put this down because there was some time left. Okay. This proving this is quite hard, where it is a fairly non-trivial result. Okay. So, the limb sup goes like square root of n log n. Okay, that is what this iterated logarithm says. Okay, I will stop here, the lecture is over.